we have a very, very special treat. Brian Fargo from InXile Entertainment is joining myself, Anthony Agnello from Joystiq.com, and Ernest Cavalli, also of Joystiq, to play a close to complete version of Wasteland 2, which is going to be out next month, has been in development since early 2012, and quite a bit longer than that, right, Brian? This has conceptually existed since 1987, after you finished the first game, and everybody's been longing for 2 since.
Yeah, it's a good thing I'm persistent. But yeah, I've been trying to get this game made since the late 80s, but who would have guessed that it ended up being for the better that I was able to get done in the last decade, and I'm able to dead.
So, now, fill us in really quickly. Nex and I were just talking before we ran into our myriad technical problems today. We were discussing the fact that this is a version of Wasteland 2 that you passed to us that is almost complete, but the game is still going to be officially finished coming out in September. So what are you guys still working on?
Well, the biggest component of what you're missing, of course, is the second half of the game. We've only put out the Arizona side, and so once you finish this part, you're going to go rolling into LA, which is it's almost like the sequel rolled into the first one. It becomes a completely different kind of experience. It looks graphically different. Different tactics are needed. Different enemies. Everything about it is different play patterns and how we put it together. So there's that whole part of it. And then like I was saying earlier, we fix hundreds and hundreds of things per day. So we're making a lot of passes right now, adding more particle effects, trying to message better with some sound effects, and it's a very complex story. There's a lot going on, so we're looking for any kind of inconsistency, and then making a balanced path. Those are the main things we're focused on, and of course, any bugs that pop up.
Now, next, you've been playing Wasteland 2
yes.
since access was granted to the public. You've been playing for most of this year, right?
Yeah, I've been playing for quite some time now. And I don't want to sound biased, but I really, really, really like it.
So why is that?
I don't want to say that it reminds me of Fallout, because Wasteland was the inspiration for Fallout, and it's, but it does, it brings me back to my childhood of exploring that kind of, that sort of, it's the post-apocalypse, but it's not just like burned out deserts, it's weirdness and just like strange people and like the ways in which the residents of this area have responded to the end of civilization as we know it is simultaneously hilarious and kind of terrifying. And I appreciate that.
Next, did you play the original Wasteland? I mean,
yes. When I was very, very young.
Right?
I'm 30, so sure.
Yeah. We're both.
Listen, the media always loves to remind me how old they were with my time.
Well, it's fun.
They love that. Oh yeah, I remember that. I was 5. Right, I hear that a lot.
Well, that's the thing. I was 5 when I played the first Wasteland, and I loved it. I didn't know what I was doing, and I probably shouldn't have been playing it at that age, but I adored it.
What was your mother doing when you were playing that game?
Well, my mother was working at the post office at the time. She didn't know I was playing it. And CNN never warned her about Wasteland like they did Doom, so I got away with it.
Where are you at this point, Matt?
Okay, so yeah, let me kind of set this up. Shortly after you start the game, you get this call from some researchers in a place called the Agricultural Center, and apparently the plants that they have been studying and the animals that they have been studying have started mutating into horrible, horrible forms. They ask you to come and protect them, and you do, and it turns out that things are more dangerous than they seem. And so you end up exploring this agricultural center, which is it's a science center, and it's full of deadly creatures.
We had each of the different writers or designers design different levels, and this particular one happens to be one that Chris Avalone originally designed.
Nice. Yeah, go ahead, Anthony, please.
Go ahead. I was going to say, Brian, you and I sat down just a couple of weeks ago to check out some later stuff in Wasteland 2. You were showing me some sections of Los Angeles, and you were also telling me about how there are all of these different quests that you need to do insanely specific things to even trigger them to happen. You showed me a portion of the game where you run into the cultists that worship atomic bombs, and how they will say, oh well, they'll capture your group and then offer you an opportunity to do a mission, and that can go in all of these different wild directions. It can go with you saying, yeah, I'll do your job, whatever. Or you can threaten to kill them, or you can say, to hell with you people, we're going to just try to escape from your clutches. And I'm sort of fascinated by that, because there's so little in there that's explicit. Like, you don't see this big shining icon that says, you've triggered these 4 quest options. And I'm curious how that manifests itself in this ag center. What could Next do in here that would lead to a bunch of different options?
Well, I mean,
Brian, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
No, we totally lost you there for a second.
Oh, am I back? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was saying that keep in mind that the agricultural center all in itself is an option.
Yeah.
Because you'll remember in the desert you got 2 distress calls. One was High Pool, one was agricultural center. Had you gone to High Pool, you wouldn't be an agricultural center right now. It would be gone.
Yeah, because they die.
The whole map right there alone.
That's right.
They died. You hear them horribly crying for help.
Yeah, I love that. When I first started playing, sorry to interrupt you, but when I first started playing, I chose High Pool to go rescue those people. And about halfway through the High Pool mission, you hear the people at the agricultural center calling and screaming and dying and saying, and cursing you because you took too long to save them. It was a good touch.
Yeah, well, we really use the radio trying to help the world feel alive, really. But within this.
Brian again?
Potentially?
Brian, I think we've lost you yet again. Just dead silence.
Mm-hmm.
Just.
Dude, it's today. Nothing goes right today.
Oh, we lost him completely. Sorry about that, everybody. This is a plague Thursday. That is what this is.
Yeah, today's awful.
This Thursday is just like we are haunt. You know what I think it is? I think yesterday, if anybody caught our impromptu stream yesterday, where we were playing the PlayStation 4 teaser for Silent Hills, we struggled with this thing, and I think it's followed us out of that stream.
Yeah.
And is cursing us even here.
Kojima's evil has followed us. Attached itself to us like a lamprey.
All right, well, Brian will be back as soon as we can get him.
I'm back.
Sweet.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what you heard of my answer.
None.
Yeah. We heard the first word and then blank. Nothings.
It was a moment where it's exactly like when I'm walking down the street and I'm loudly talking to myself in front of all of these people, and they look at me like I'm insane, except the Twitch equivalent of that.
Well, I wanted to answer your specific question as an example of that. So there's a particular person inside of the Ag Center. If you find this person and you perform the right thing onto him, and I don't want to give away the spoilers, he will then open up 3 areas on the main Arizona desert map that would not have been there otherwise if you hadn't been able to perform this one action and have this one particular conversation, which then opens up 3 other quests that wouldn't have been in the game. So we love that people will have, like, if you play the whole game from start to finish and compare notes with someone else, you'll find out that you will both have different experiences.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that I've played through the Agricultural Center 3 times and have never run into whatever Brian is talking about. Ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So have all 3 of your runs through the Agricultural Center been different? Have you gone in and said, "Oh, I want to just do it a little bit differently"? What was it like?
The broad strokes are the same. You're still there to rescue these people and kind of kill the creatures that have mutated. But yeah, I find new stuff every time. The thing about this game is that there's a huge attention to detail. Every place you walk into has, a ton of stuff that you can interact with, and even the stuff that you can't interact with always has these surprisingly well written text blurbs that pop up describing what's around you. It's very reminiscent of playing D&D with a good dungeon master to brand myself as a huge nerd.
Well, Brian, that's
and by the way, keep in mind this is really kind of the first map too. So it's more on the simple side, right? And there was the murder map, which was very small, but Ag Center and Highpool are kind of the first maps we really get into. So
yeah.
They get more complicated as you go. But even a little thing like the one guy where he says, what happened to my wife, and she's dead. You could say, oh, she's fine, right? And when you run into him later, he said, hey, you lied. Why did you tell me she was okay when she wasn't? And then even within that option, you have a bunch of different choices, including using a high-level conversational skill, which basically tells them, hey, come on, we need you back here with me. And if you have a high enough persuasion, he says, okay, you're right. So even a small little nuanced conversation can change the outcome of something later.
Next, who is rolling in your crew there?
These are just relatively random people I put together. Let me go into the character screens and you can see. This is my main guy, named after myself because I'm vain. Basically, his skills break down to assault rifles and lockpicking and safe cracking and that kind of breaking into stuff sort of thing. This is Big Jim. As befitting his name, he carries a big stick and uses it to whack people. And he has a skill called Brute Force, which comes in handy when you can't quite pick through locks and would instead prefer to kick the door down. He's quite good at that. Let's see here. This is Doc Chambers. She's a doctor who's great with shotguns. Very, very, very much Old West kind of... I can't think of the guy's name, but imagine like an Old West frontier doctor who carries a shotgun and also, a medical bag. And this is Prairie Ghost. She's a sniper and arguably sort of racist. But her whole thing is shooting people from far, far away and then deconstructing weapons and using those weapons to make better weapons. And that's my crew. Oh, and I had two. There's also a lot of games, a lot of role-playing games allow you to find non-player characters and put them in your party and bring them around with you. That's true in Wasteland 2, and there are a ton of them. I'm maybe an hour and a half into the game here, but I've already had 2 NPCs join my party and then leave because I decided to kill some innocent civilians, and they did not like that.
That's really cool. I was wondering why you only have 4 people in your party, because at this point in the game, I always have 6. I have Angela and Rose. So,
exactly. I had both of them, and then I pissed them off.
You pissed them off, basically.
Yeah. And I wasn't expecting it either. I'd never done that before. I just happened to,
Fancy Cat 2008 here in the chat is wondering how many party members can you have total? Brian, when you were showing the game to me a couple of weeks ago, it looked like you had like 7 or 8 people in the party. It was like insane. And I was kind of shocked. I wasn't expecting the party to be that big.
Yeah, you can get it up to 7. It's 4 rangers and 3 NPCs. And then there's a special area where you can more, but I won't spoil that. But really, you're controlling up to 7. And so there's 3 slots, and I think there's 12 or 15. I don't remember the last count now of different NPCs that can join your party. You know, and what's great about these kind of games is you'll have some NPC that's been with you for a long time, 5, 8, 10 hours, whatever, and then you still meet a stronger one that you could swap them out with, but you find yourself reluctant to swap because you're actually starting to like these characters that join you. Because they have personality, you know, they're talking the whole time. They talk to each other, they talk to vendors, they're commenting on what's going on, and you find yourself developing an affinity for them.
Yeah, there's a lot more personality. Go ahead, Anthony.
Next, have you found the angry hobo who's a drunk?
No, I found some drunks.
He's my favorite. He always steals the alcohol out of your party's inventory.
Which is
He's
awesome.
fighter, but he takes it.
Oh, that's clever. Nice. Oh, Brian, I wanted to ask.
What's that guy's name again?
What? Huh?
That was Scotchman.
Scotchmo.
That's a good name. I like that. Brian.
You know, just to give you an idea of the detail, because I love Scotchman. So again, he's just one of these random NPCs, and he's he's a hobo.
Sure.
But if you still have him in your party, I don't know, 20 hours later, you'll be in LA, and someone will go, "Oh, so you're the Rangers, but who's the smelly guy with you?" So they'll recognize this hobo that's in your group and make a comment about it.
Speaking of these kind of little touches.
By the way, we added. Go ahead. Touches you got.
Okay.
By the way, we added another nice feature, which you'll appreciate. Because you know when you go up a level and you want to allocate your skill points and figure out where you want to put it towards.
Right.
We now highlight the skills that nobody in the party has. So that, because sometimes you're like, well, you need to get this skill and you don't remember which in your party group might already have it. So now we highlight it so you'll know, hey, nobody has demolitions or alarm disarm or whatever. It's kind of a nice little feature.
Nice. I wanted to ask Brian. At character creation, you have all the usual things. You know, you pick your skills, you pick what your character looks like. But there's also an option for every character to pick like their favorite brand of cigarettes, and then that character starts with those cigarettes in their inventory. Is that anything but like a cosmetic feature?
I think that particular one is a cosmetic feature. We thought I think you can find cigarettes along the way, but we thought some of the stuff you want to add just as part of your kind of your personality, kind of like choosing a religion too, right? Because in reality.
Right.
If you walk around, people just won't look at you and go, "Oh, they're such and such," right? They don't know, so
they might
react to something that a person looking at your character wouldn't really see. But most of the stuff, though, obviously, it does have features that you pick.
Fair enough. And is there any? Yeah, Anthony, go ahead.
Next, no.
Is there any upper limit to how high, how far one can advance a skill in the course of the game, or is it just, or is the only limit to the skill caps the number of, I don't even know what you would call them, the little blocks in the skill screen.
Well, yeah. Those little blocks you can max them out to level 10, but it's very hard to do.
Right, so that's not something people are going to typically do during the game. Okay. Oh, and also, if you were to take a character with all of the skills, could one character beat the game by itself?
Yeah, that question.
Brian, I think we've lost you again.
Man, I gotta stop hitting those pod people. For people who are watching,
People do love to try to pull that on.
All right. And as Deadly Maverick points out, a deadly crew has beat Brian once again.
apparently.
Why does Brian keep getting...
I don't know what's happening to your audio, man. It's literally like Skype is just saying, let us pick on him.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's, well...
By the way, my yeah, well, you can hear me okay now, though, right?
Yes. No. Yeah. No, I was just going to say, it still sounds like you're cutting out a little bit here and there. Next, I wonder if it's because the people you were trying to fight have just... Oh,
Cause what?
I'm still here.
there you are. Oh, Brian, got you.
I'll just talk like I pretend you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll just, some of them will get through.
There you are.
Exactly.
There you are.
I was going to say, my president here has put in probably 1,000 hours into this game so far, and he's still continuing to see new stuff all the time. It's just massively detailed.
I was going to ask earlier, Brian. You and I have talked a lot about how one of the things that has really aided the development of Wasteland 2 is the fact that you could go into the Unity asset store and say, well, here is a gas station. Here is a bunch of weapons. Here is a cave that we can take, and then our artists can modify it to fit in our world rather than building something from scratch. How will people be able to modify the game once it's out there on their own? Will they be able to make their own rangers? Like, how moddable is Wasteland 2?
We're going to provide a mod kit afterwards, but I haven't spent a lot of focus on that yet. Other than I know that we're going to do it, we've just been trying to get this game complete. Right. So as far as we're going to make it as modifiable as possible. But the thing about the Unity assets, sort of like you said, is that I wanted to make sure that if we gave you a 60, 70, 80-hour game, however long it takes you, that there was diversity from start to finish. Right? Nothing's worse than when you're playing a game and after a couple hours, you feel like you're seeing the same thing over and over again. So that has helped us. So we created our own asset, we have assets from our other games, and then of course we use the Unity assets sort of change things to make them unrecognizable as much as possible. So that from beginning to end, you're just seeing new stuff all the time, which you're seeing in the level design. I mean, each one of them looks most areas look quite different than the last.
Deadly Maverick in the chat has pointed out that you should probably ensure that the community can make their own hats. Hats equal success. Is that true? Like, did Valve break the way that people think about games making money after you put it out in the world? Has there ever been a moment where you're like, we need to find a way so that people can just make something dumb that they wouldn't think to otherwise make in Wasteland? Like, everybody make their own Ranger outfit, and then you can sell it on your own. Was there ever that temptation?
I mean, we certainly haven't thought of anything from a monetization standpoint. I mean, one thing we do, and you probably saw, is that we let people import their own photos into their characters. And so people are doing all sorts of wonderful things. Somebody just posted one the other day, and they have the A-Team. And then there was another one for Game of Thrones. So people are starting to import their own visual look. I think it'd be cool to have a site where you can import not just the look, but all the statistics for each one of them and play as your favorite group of four. I think that would be totally cool.
That would be awesome. Who would you use? All right, you can have any 4 people wandering around the Wasteland being Rangers. Who do you want?
Let me think about that one for a second.
Sirius 6x4, the Goonies.
Nice. I would have to grab some of my characters from probably Mad Max or Road Warrior.
That's fitting.
I gotta go with Max. So I'd have to do that on one playthrough.
Next.
Yes.
Have any 4 people in your Ranger squad? Who are they?
A bunch of, let's say, drug-addled, promiscuous teenagers. Because nothing has a longer life expectancy than a drug-addled, promiscuous teenager.
It's absolutely true.
I also want to play as the 4 members of Kiss.
Oh, nice. Yeah. All right. Like young Kiss or old Kiss? Because Gene Simmons today.
No. He's no. Remember when they did the 4? Each one of them came out with their own album. With 4 different color covers. I want that art. Those guys.
Absolutely. Nice. Yeah, I think I would have to go with. God, the first thing that pops in my head is I would want Gwar. I would want the full band Gwar wandering around because, like, they already look like post-apocalyptic freaks, and I think people would be terrified of them.
Yeah.
In the grand pantheon of post-apocalyptic freaks.
Mm-hmm.
If I couldn't have Gwar, I would make the Bee Gees. Because I don't think people would know.
The Bee Gees would be strong, high in charisma.
Yeah, absolutely.
but not high in strength.
Hey, Brian.
The Teletubbies would also be.
Yeah. I would love to see the Teletubbies be torn apart by giant flies. Brian, I've noticed that in the most recent update, a lot of the things that you'll find, like the chests and the doors that you come across that are locked and you have to use a skill to open them, a lot of them are now trapped. And you walk up to them and they explode. Why are there so many more traps now?
Well, it's a function of, there's a lot of different skills in the game, right? There's perception, there's safe cracking, there's alarm disarm, there's demolitions, there's all these different skills, and they have to be meaningful. So what you're seeing is the passes across every single map to make sure that if you chose something, that there was a payoff for doing so. Otherwise, you don't want a skill-based game where you choose a skill and it only gets used 3 times.
That makes sense.
You're seeing, again, you're seeing it as if it's being added, like, hey, whereas normally it'd be a finished game, but it would just be in there. So it really makes you think, right, on these chests. And sometimes I'm in a rush, and I don't check it, and of course I blame myself, because I could have done a perception check on it, but I moved too quickly.
Yeah.
So if you're being a little diligent, you're not likely to set up a trap on accident. You could generally pick it up with a perception skill, but yeah, sometimes you're moving quick. And listen, my guys put it in. It happened to me. I was playing the first level, and there was a chest in the corner. I'm like, oh, there's a fence there. When did my guys put that there? And I walk over, bang, and it blew me up. I had no idea they put it there.
Yeah, I want to tell all of our listeners that if you pick up Wasteland 2 on your first game, put as many points into perception as possible. Not only does it allow you to identify traps before they blow you up, but you get a lot more detail in the world. Like, you'll find things that you wouldn't see otherwise.
Next, I always have a hard time when I start playing an RPG like Wasteland 2. I get sort of overwhelmed by choice, and I get crippled when I start to think about, like, oh, well, what do I want my character to do? What is for you the perfect balance of, like, how many different types of skills do you want? Do you, like, want a full D&D layout? Do you want something very simplified, like an old school Dragon Quest setup, where every character has very specific things that they can do and you can't really customize them that much? What do you want?
That's a hard question to ask. I don't think that there's just so many different directions you can go in this game that there isn't really a party that's not viable. Personally, I always like to have lockpicking and safe cracking on hand, just because it allows you to get into a lot of stuff you wouldn't be able to otherwise. But beyond that, do whatever you want, really.
Yeah, we purposely made it that way so that there was not a wrong combination, but that everything could get used, and there were multiple ways around things. I mean, there are doors, if you can't open them, you can brute force them. If that doesn't work, you can throw a grenade and open it up. So, we don't, there's no blockers based upon what you pick. But, I tend to specialize where I like to take each of my party members and dial up really high level in 3 or 4 different things so that I'm really proficient at those, as opposed to having everybody just be a general jack of all trades.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to go.
That's just what I play.
That's insanely difficult to make sure that you get that balance right, though. It's like, how do you make sure when you're making something like Wasteland 2, where there are so many different options, where there are so many different ways to play the game, how do you make sure that you're not breaking it by making sure that, there is no wrong way to set up your character, that they can be whatever you want them to be?
Well, I mean, that's part of the iteration process, because, at times we do break things, right? There's so much you have to work your way through, but that's why we just throw lots of hours at it and lots of sort of the philosophy towards it. But yeah, we're always having to think things through all the time, because, you could change one little thing and throw the entire balance off of the game.
Were there any times...
RPGs...
Go ahead. I was just going to ask if...
I say RPGs are, they're like, it's like doing the decathlon. You have to be really proficient at 10 different events. It's like just a strategy game where that's all you're doing and you're not modeling everything outside of that, and it's not just an adventure game because you've got a combat system. So yeah, there's definitely, they're very complex to put together, but that's why you need a mid-sized company at a minimum to make these types of things.
I wanted to add to what Brian was saying about the options of all the different ways that you can, say, get through a door, for instance. Yeah, there are myriad ways to do everything in this game, and really you're only limited by the amount of ammo you have, the amount of ammo and like med kits that you have. I unlike a lot of role playing games, there isn't an overflowing, unending well of items and healing stuff. You have to play somewhat conservatively, or you'll run out of bullets and medkits and just die.
Yeah, we keep attention all the time, so that, yeah, you are playing smart. You can figure to just empty clips into everyone you meet in order to try to solve the problem. You are going to run out of ammo, so you got to be intelligent. And to me, that creates the necessary tension. By the way, in these classrooms, have you met the people that are tied up in the vines?
I'm just meeting that first person now. The first researcher in the vines. But yes.
What is this researcher in the vines?
Did you know you can save them?
No, I did not. I've been killing them out of mercy.
Jax, that isn't always the answer.
That's very kind of you.
Well, Brian, how do you save them?
Yeah, because I'm not seeing an option. And that guy just exploded on his own.
Use your outdoorsman skill.
Okay, well, I don't think I actually have anyone with outdoorsman. Maybe Big Jim? Let's find out here. Oh, he has one...
If you hadn't made your... Too late.
Yeah.
You killed him. It's too... If you hadn't made your NPCs angry and leave you, they could have helped you with that too.
Yeah, that was...
That's okay, that's all part of it.
That was really not one of my finest moments.
Next, maybe that's how you should approach just the entire game. Just be like, yeah, they're all mercy killings. It's all going okay.
Right? I'm the angel of mercy here. That's my role.
Do you know what happens if you kill too many innocent people?
No, what?
Do other rangers come after you?
The rangers they'll turn on you and they'll send death squads after you, and then the LA part of the game is no longer accessible.
Whoa! So, you can shut down the entire second half of the game.
That's right. And then it becomes a kill or be killed. And you can actually win and beat the Rangers and get a different ending.
Wow. So,
we love the rabbit hole.
Apparently.
next, would you turn on the Rangers? Have you decided that that's what needs to happen?
You know, I haven't decided that the Rangers are good people yet. That's the other thing about this game. Nobody's, like, definitely good or bad. It's all kinds of shades of gray. And I appreciate that. You know, too many games are like, this is the good side, this is the evil side. And in Wasteland 2, it's like, everybody's just kind of living and they're screwed up and, you know, figure out how to make your way in the world.
Just like real life.
Yeah, exactly. Only, you know, with more mutants.
I don't go as far as to say that Wasteland 2 is exactly like real life.
Fortunately not.
Next, what are these bugs you're fighting? What is happening?
So as I was saying, the agricultural center is full of mutated creatures, right? So these giant flies and these giant larvae, giant maggots, they're normal flies and maggots that have been mutated to horrific size. However, the guy right behind the fly, he's a person who has been mutated by one of the... if people have been paying attention, every time I walk too close to one of these... they look like red, like plant... there's no good way I can say this without being gross. They look like sores in plant form, with like filled with pus. And if you walk too close to them, they explode. My party doesn't become zombies from this, quote-unquote zombies, but this guy, this unfortunate who got some of the pod goo on him, mutated into this horrific creature who, once I kill him, will explode and spread the pod goo further, thus continuing the circle of life.
Brian, Lord Nomak here in the chat has asked any way possible that this would ever come to console. I know that you get asked that question a lot, but it's pertinent. You know, Wasteland 2 is a game that's garnered a lot of interest from old school PC players over the past 2 years, and I know that, like, the last thing in the world you need to be thinking about is the next thing after this, even though Torment is the next thing after this, especially when you're in the home script. But, I mean, like, how would you bring this to console? Like, what would you need to change if Wasteland 2 was going to be turned into a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One game?
Well, like you said, we're pretty focused on this, so I haven't been too worried about other versions, because we need to make this thing the best possible. For console, I mean, we want this same game experience, but the UI would have to require, it would have to be something that we felt worked well, right? That it felt good moving a party like this around, and having sort of tactical combat in a good way. And probably you'd have more time to dial up even more audio if we were to do it, but the UI is the biggest issue. It has to feel right, so we want to do that first. It's technically possible for sure, but like I said, we're just focused on getting this first thing done.
Yeah, I can't imagine how this would work. I mean, yes, it's possible, but there's so much nuance and different things one can do in the current interface that it seems like it would be very difficult to move it to a console.
Yeah, like I said, it all comes to UI, so we would fool around with it, and if it felt good, we'd do it. If we couldn't make it feel right, then we wouldn't.
Next, this fight doesn't seem to be going your way.
No, well, the problem is that I keep... I'm usually better than this, I promise. But I keep...
You have a pretty good weapon.
Yeah, I do. The problem is I keep exploding things right next to all of my other guys, which kills them.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with those pod guys. By the way, one little piece of advice on the weapons too. You'll I don't know if you have any energy weapons, but the
I don't.
more metal people are wearing, the are more effective than they are.
Really? Wow. That's
So you'll find that energy weapons against soft things are not nearly as effective.
wow. That's such an odd detail to include. It makes perfect sense. You just wouldn't expect that to be. Let's see here.
There's a lot of detail with it. You have to be careful, as you know, with friendly fire is a big deal too. Like sometimes I'll take that shot hoping I don't hit my own person, and of course that'll sail right past the enemy, right into one of my own guys.
Yes. However, that also works for the enemies. So if you can get them clustered up, the guys behind them will start trying to shoot through their own ranks and kill their own guys.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, that poor guy. Okay.
This is always. I can't say for certain if this is always a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
But when we do streams, and I end up just getting wrapped in what is happening on screen, and I can't stop just falling into the action, that's probably a good sign. That means the game is doing something right?
Sure. That makes sense.
Exactly. Hey, where did I listen? Well, where'd my chat go? Chat? My chat disappeared out. I gotta try to log in so I can get the chat in too. Didn't show me another commercial. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, you would think with all that Google money that they could stop showing so many ads, but no.
What would think?
Well, for fun, I just sent out a Steam code just to make sure my chat is working.
Oh, nice. That's an excellent way to test things.
Excellent.
So whoever copies and pastes it the fastest, I guess.
Okay, let's see.
What is the exact release date for Wasteland 2 in September? Do you have an exact date yet?
We're waiting for a few. There's a few variables that are going on that are outside of our control. We are sort of wrapping up, as I said. I'll give you a soft date, but don't hold me to it yet. But I think it's going to be September 16th. Nice. But I'm just waiting for a few things. But we're right there. I mean, we're right there.
Although I should point out that for people who don't want to wait until September, you can still get in on the early access by going to Steam.
The early access version, even though it's more expensive than what the final one will be. That's because of the heritage of our Kickstarter backers. But we threw a whole bunch of digital goodies in, so that the disparity between the two is pretty close when it gets right down to it. Like when you get the early access, you get Bard's Tale, Wasteland 1, you get a bunch of novellas, you get a bunch of things that the standard one won't just have.
Brian, I'm really curious, something that has sort of emerged as a theme at this year's Gamescom is a lot of people are talking about how, yes, early access is a boom, and it's nice that, even console makers are starting to discuss how to implement that style of release on a living room machine and not just PC. But there are a lot of people also talking about sort of the challenges of making an early access game, and how, there's no standardization. There are some people who expect an early access game to, be at least playable and somewhat feature complete when it first opens up and it's first accessible. And then there are some people who are like, no, early access games can be nothing more than a barely working demo. I'm curious how your experience making Wasteland 2 is going to affect the way you approach Torment. How is the beta and early access process of getting Torment out in the world going to be different than what you did with Wasteland 2?
Oh gosh, it's been such a positive experience for us with Wasteland 2. I've said many times that whatever our rating ends up being, it's going to be sort of X points higher because of it, right? I mean, we talked about early in the interview about how far this game has come since December until now, and it's by virtue of that process that people weighing in. You know, one of the things in the creative business is that you want everybody in your company even all weighing in a very honest way about things they like and things they don't like. But we all know each other, and so people tend to hold back a little bit. But with the audience, the crowd, they don't hold back at all, right? I mean, they will tell you exactly what they think about stuff. And so, and while it can be harsh sometimes, you need to hear it all. And so I think it's been fantastic because I've never cared where my feedback came from. If good ideas come from our QA department or from our vice president or from a person just playing the game, a good idea is a good idea. So I personally have loved this whole process, and so I would always have some form of it. I don't know exactly what it might be from it, but certainly this one was not tricky, but it was a risk, I guess, because it's not a multiplayer game, but it's a narrative game. So people say, well, you don't want to ruin it, but I think by splitting it in half, it worked out well because you got plenty of gameplay for your money. But we also learned, we solved all the systems issues up front, all the UI stuff, all that sort of thing, stuff that's this macro and goes across everything. And anything that's play pattern related, we learned from the things they gravitated towards and the things they really didn't like, and applied those lessons for the second half.
Max, what's happening? What are you doing?
What I'm doing is
No, that all came through, Brian. That sounded
okay. I was waiting for. Are you there?
What I was doing is normally I would be continuing through one of the other airlocks that was connected to the area I was just in. However, as people can see from this handy weighed down icon, my main character is carrying way too much stuff, and I'm going to quickly become encumbered. So I'm going to kind of backtrack to the closest merchant and dump kind of the excess junk that I'm toting around with me. That's not him.
Max, have you gotten to in Los Angeles at this point?
I haven't, no. I have yet to see the Los Angeles area, unlike some people.
Unlike some folks?
Despite the fact that I've been playing this much longer than everyone, no, I haven't gotten to see Los Angeles. Thanks for reminding me.
Next, so you've been talking about how you restarted, and
yeah, I've been restarting with every major update because things change so drastically that you kind of have to. You don't have to, but it makes a lot of sense to.
But you kind of have to. Why?
Well,
where are your surf wants going?
it's the amount of content that has been added with each update is beyond substantial. For instance, as I was saying earlier, the traps that are attached to certain boxes that you'll find or certain doors, they just weren't really present prior to that last update. And so many graphical effects have been changed, and it's not only is it interesting to see the game evolve throughout time, but if you played the game once when it was first released to the public, and that was it, you got maybe 10% of what the actual finished product is going to be. And I like exploring. It's a neat world.
Yeah. Can you attack the giant carrots?
No, however, you can click on them and get this nice blurb that says, "Stupendous, a rabbit's wet dream." And the neat bit is that each of the different giant plants has different text. For instance, the giant eggplants say, "Enormous, if one of these fell on you, you'd be black and purple."
There's just wonderful little one-liners just throughout. Just little piece of inventory item you pick up in the desert, you look at it, and it just has a great little one-liner to it. The writers did a wonderful job. The game is huge. I think I told you it's got more words than the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's over 500,000 words. It's quite substantial.
How did you now, at what point were you like, let's take a look at the script and let's figure out how much longer this is than other things? How did you get to Lord of the Rings?
Well, when my guys told me what the word count was, and we didn't have a goal for a word count, I just kept getting, well, we need a reaction to that, and we need a reaction to that, and we need an epilogue, we need this, we need that, just in order to fill the world out and make it feel like a real world. It just grew. So when they said, hey, we're well over 500,000 words, I said, oh my God. So I started Googling the length of novels, only to find out the Lord of the Rings was 450,000. So I said, if we get to 560, we'll be War and Peace.
You've heard it here, folks. Wasteland 2, longer than Lord of the Rings, longer than the Russian classics.
No, we're not there yet. Maybe get an expansion pack. And the ultimate goal, of course, would be to pass up the Bible. Some 700,000 or 800,000.
Just crush the Old and New Testaments combined.
Exactly. But it all comes with the territory of making the world react as naturally as possible. Because for me, with these role playing games, once you do, when you try something your way and it works, and you try something again and it works, and it tries something again and it works. To me, that's when you get immersed into it. That's when it starts to feel like a real world. And so that's why all those little details do matter, because it's how you create an environment that feels like you're inside of it.
Brian, everything that InXile Entertainment has ever made has had vast reams of writing that was made in-house. You have people on staff that write the text that is in your games. And obviously you make RPGs. Obviously there are things that are going to have a lot of text and a lot of dialogue. But I'm curious why that isn't more common. Why don't you see studios have writers in-house rather than, why is that always a secondary thing? It's now we need descriptors for items, get a freelancer. When you look at something like Wasteland 2, and, next you're delighted when you see those little one-liners on things like the carrots and everything.
Yep.
So why doesn't everybody want that level of quality? Is there a reason? Is there a pragmatic reason to not do that?
Well, certainly part of it's a matter of focus, but I think that one of the things that some of the other games deal with also is that they want to have audio. So it would be prohibitive to have 500,000 lines of audio. Even if you ignore the descriptors of text of the carrots and things, you still have a lot of conversation. So for us, we'll be adding dialogue all the way to the last second if we think it makes sense. So we do have an advantage there in that we are text. And like I said, it's also a matter of focus. I think that the writing just makes all the difference in the world for these things. Just like a book and just like a movie, and certainly just like the game. So I sort of recognize that, and I try to get really strong writers on board. And I never think for a second that I'm a good writer. I can write emails like the best of them, right? But I'm not a writer. This is what we do for a living. So I'm always been impressed by that craft.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have reached the end of our hour. I apologize again for our audio issues at the beginning of the stream. Brian, thank you very much for stopping by, man. I know this is a very busy time for you with a soft launch window for Wasteland 2 of September 16th. Not a guarantee, but a likelihood. And you can check out the game now on Steam if you would like to pre-order it. And next, are you just going to keep playing with the characters that you have now, or are you going to restart again?
I'll probably restart again. I'm so undecided. That's my other thing. Is like I'll get through the game, and I'll see something that will require a particular skill to interact with, and I won't have a character with that skill. So I'll be like, oh, I'm going to have to start all over again and bring a character with that skill so I can see what this thing is. Yeah, I'm going to end up restarting again. At the very least, when it comes out in retail form, I'm going to restart. So,
Brian, anything else you want to say to folks before we sign off for the day?
Well, no, I guess I certainly want to thank if there's any backers out there that helped support us on our Kickstarter campaign. I really appreciated it. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and I hope I'm delivering to everybody's delight. And it just feels great to be here in this final stretch after all these years. So I can't wait to get it out there. I think people are going to love the detail, and we're all working our butts off and just getting this baby wrapped up. So I appreciate you guys covering it the way you are.
Well, thank you again for stopping by, man. Everybody, please go to joystiq.com this week. We are winding down with Gamescom. We have 1 day left with Gamescom 2014. And we've got all kinds of awesome stuff coming out of that. We've got interviews with people from Paradox Interactive and Deep Silver, people behind Hotline Miami, and people from Don't Nod, who, if you guys haven't heard of Don't Nod, they made a little game last year called Remember Me that is very, very worth your time to check out. We talked to them about their new game, Life is Strange, which is a deeply existential name for a video game. But you can see all that stuff at Joystiq right now. Follow us on Twitter and on Facebook and Google+. Just search for Joystiq with a Q. And, follow us here on Twitch, because while we regularly broadcast at 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we also just pop on every now and again and play weird stuff, like that Silent Hills teaser that's on PlayStation 4 and is infuriating. But, yeah, so follow us. Just click that little follow button, and we will see you on Tuesday next week. Until then, bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, guys.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for joining us.